we're all set. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Devji. Thanks a lot. Okay, so pardon me for this thing, because I believe I have given thing. I am re-repeating this for the third time. So we had the recording, so don't worry on that part. But currently, have you understood what BA does and how criticality of BA role is? I'll repeat these things: the criticality and overall, what BA has to do, BA has to perform, and I'll also supply with all the templates and tools, and we do hands-on workshop for each and every tool which is we feel as in critical. So if you really come up with any new tool, we would really love to understand from you why and how we can include it in our training. Okay, so please let me know if you have any difficulties, any challenges understanding this thing. Santosh, have you understood this thing?
Yes.
Okay, Sheetal, I believe it's a repetition for you. How about you, Usha?
Yes, Ravindra. Actually, we did it in the last class also.
Oh, you are also there. Okay, great. Sure.
Friday, so you explained me all this on Friday.
I think this session is recorded on your YouTube. I think I saw it. Yeah.
Okay, so we can really skip ahead. Okay, great, no problem. Thanks for that. This is a kind of overall. Okay. Now this is also we've discussed in I think one session definition as for the BA book. BA book as in this is a book from Project Management Institute, and we refer it as a kind of Bible for a BA and overall industry wide. We use this thing. I shared BA book with previous group. I'll share with you also. I have the older version of BA book. But if you go for BA certification, the BA book will comes to you as in part of the whole study material. So it's really good thing to refer, and let's try to understand how it defines. I'll go skip fast because then if you heard this session, this is also recorded. So let's try to understand it from and try to get your questions, because this is really critical for a typical business analyst. So business analyst is a practice of enabling change, right? Because wherever there is a change, there's a requirement of product, support or services, right? So we are basically enabling change or enhancing the change in our organizational behavior or organizational workings or day-to-day work, right? So it's a practice of enabling change in an enterprise by defining needs and recommending solution. So that's how the BA works. You define the needs, you elicit the requirement, you recommend the solutions. That's the whole, what you can say, a scope statement for a BA, frankly speaking, and that deliver value to the stakeholder. And even you come to a level where you normally build an essential value which has to be delivered with this, stakeholder. So that's how the criticalness of the BA role is overall. Business analysis enables the enterprise to articulate the needs. So whatever you are representing, you are actually trying to collect the requirement, collect the needs, build it for a business, okay, and share it with them in a way where the project team or the support team may start implementing these things, right? So that's what the criticalness of the BA role, and that's how the overall length and breadth of a BA role. So BA role can be a simple requirement gather guy, means he can go to clients, write down the requirement and share with the stakeholder. Or BA role as in critical role, he can really understand the requirement, he try to suggest improvement, he try to give a scope statement, he try to build functionality for a project or a support project or a product, so that he can be a really critical and crucial point throughout the project or product life cycle, right? Did you understand me what I'm trying to say here? I'm trying to articulate you with the criticalness of your role. So the way you put extensive efforts in your requirement gathering, it'll be basically enhance your criticalness, enhance your role, and enhance your job satisfaction overall. That's how important is this definition is. So if you could understand, well and good, we can move ahead. So any confusion at this moment?
No.
Okay, great. So even business analysts perform on variety of initiatives. Like we said, it's within the organizations. You try to enhance an organizational processes within organizations. You try to enhance a typical product, or it basically it can be a tactical. So tactical is basically a single event initiative, right? And then we'll have operational, means try to enhance overall operational or build efficiency within the organizations you are working with or working for. Okay, and then perform within the boundaries of a project, product, or service, or enterprise evolution for that matters. And it also basically gives a really good boost to continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is a process parameter for a CMMI level 5. So that's the topmost level of maturity model for a given organizations. Okay, so continuous improvement is really big word, buzzword. So when you trying to explain to an interviewer, if you can push this word called continuous improvement in your interview, it will really help you overall, because then the interviewer can understand the mentality or the overall attitude which the BA is normally should come forward to. So continuous improvement is really good word to throw it in an interview as far as BA goes, because you are based in overall improvement scenario. You're trying to improve situation, you're trying to improve the product, process, or service. That's how the world look at BA too. Okay, so if anybody else was BA does, so you can tell we define scope, we define improvement process and products for organizations, be it a client, be it your organization where you're working with, right? And also define a current state, future state. So we define the progress overall for a given project or a product or service, and determine the activities. Yes, this is what the elicitation is all about. You determine the actual practical activities which are going to get performed with that scope which is available to you, right? So I would like to show you a video which is really I found it on YouTube. You can also have look at it, but let me try to get it started. Where is that? Training, and then I'll have this thing, PA, Scrum, video, right? So we have yes, let's have a look at this. This is around 10 minutes video. Let me share it with you. Let's get it started. And how do you share this thing? New share. Could you see this thing? Could you see this video?
Yeah,
Yes.
I can.
A guy with cap, speaking. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's going to explain to us how the requirements are, done for a typical BA, and how important are the requirements for a BA. And he'll try to give us overall overview of a typical business analyst, what he should and he must do. So it's really good thing. Just let's watch it together.
Regards to being a business analyst. So if you're interested, please make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe. It helps me a lot when you support the channel. With that being said, today's topic is going to be how to do requirements gathering. So what is requirements gathering? How do you go about it? What are all the steps involved? I'll be walking you guys through that process right now. So obviously the question is how to do requirements gathering. First of all, what is requirements gathering, right? That's the first question, the first step of this entire process. Well, I've got videos where I go into depth about this, about requirements gathering being the main thing that a business analyst does. You guys can go check out those videos. I also have a course, a beginner business analyst course that I walk through in detail about this process. So if you're interested, that link is in the description for the course. But with that being said, requirements gathering is the essential component of what a business analyst does. Okay, so essentially, requirements gathering and requirements documentation, that is how a business analyst achieves and tries to solve the problem. So again, whatever the problem is going to be for a business analyst, they are going to go ahead and try to elicit the requirements to understand that problem from stakeholders. Okay, so again, I've always drawn this upside down triangle for you guys to remember. So if I've got business, which I'll put short here for bus, the business stakeholders, and I've got the IT developers. You've got the BA that's going to be in the middle, and they are going to go ahead and elicit and gather the requirements from the stakeholders.
As we seen, like we go to client, the sample we took, we go to client where we normally closely work with our project manager and go to meet, let's say, the stakeholder team in State Farm. If you're working in Infosys, you go to State Farm and trying to gather requirements. So this is what the triangle is he's talking about. You understood the triangle, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So this is a symbolic representation. It's not a general practice or best practice, but he really explained it well with this triangle. So let's try to understand.
Okay, so they're going to go ahead and get those requirements from the stakeholders. That is going to be the requirements gathering. And then after they gather those requirements, they're going to go ahead and then translate it into a way that the IT developers are going to be able to code it. Okay, because these two entities cannot speak to each other, that is where the business analyst comes into.
There are many jokes on CIO, client CIO talking to a IT executive on requirement enhancing, and that's how the overall BA role started taking importance in day in day out. This was in late 80s or early 90s. Wherever typical they were shown, this was in couple of even sitcom in US as well, like a typical developer calling a CIO of State Farm and saying ki sir ye nahi chalta hai, means this thing is not working because the OS is not supported. That time we were really working closely with Java, so even the washing machine used to come with Java as an OS. And then the developer used to ask him, sir, how can I get this Java working with your system, because yours is Unix and Linux and all those other OS which Java were not supporting at that time. So this was really a good joke at the time, but if you can understand the criticalness of it, it really it let you understand how the business couldn't directly talk to IT, because as an IT person, I have understood it after let's say 10 or 15 years of my experience. Like, okay, this doesn't work because the way we work with our background, we work with our educational background, we work with our culture, right? So we need to go to a level to work as an BA to enhance our communication, to basically get into the shoes of clients. That's how we say in India कि उसके जैसा बन के दिखना पड़ेगा मेरे को. So if I started thinking like him, whatever he wants, then I can understand in depth, right? So now BA isn't part of IT team overall, but now BA is an independent horizontal in a typical organization like which are really haven't evolved processes like Infosys, Patni, Computer Associates. All these guys, they have BA as a separate team altogether. So you're not part of IT. So this triangle, this is really latest video, but this triangle does help you how you're independent from IT. So if for a cost cutting measure, if they start downsizing IT, you are safe because you're not counted in the group of IT. Your counted is almost as good as an HR or almost as good as an support, infrastructure support or whatever it may be, but not part of IT. So nowadays BA roles are really evolving. They are getting more and more importance day in day out, and you are normally a face of organization, so you talk to very senior person in client, and your communication does play a very critical and important part in requirement gathering or the negotiation and overall enhancement of the business activities, right? So try to understand the criticalness, try to understand the girth of the role, so that we can do our best to be a critical resource, to be a good BA. That's why this is important. Video is important. Okay, I'll move ahead.
Play, and they gather the requirements, and then they elicit, or gather and elicit, and then they translate the requirements. Okay, so that is essentially going to be the first step in terms of understanding what exactly I mean by.
And feel free to ask questions. I'm there for you, huh?
Requirements gathering. Okay, what are requirements gathering, and how exactly do you do it? Okay, so that's really the first step here. And once you understand this, now we can go ahead and move into the next step, which is understanding really the project for yourself. Okay, so as a business analyst, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to be assigned a project. Okay, once you're assigned a project, the first thing to do is understand what the project is about. Okay, you are, as a business analyst, a problem solver. Okay, the project is obviously going to have a problem. They are going to have something there that they are either trying to fix, they are trying to achieve, that they are trying to enhance, that they are trying to, find a way to make it work. So whatever that problem is, you need to understand what that problem is. Okay, and I use the IT world as my main example here because it's that's the field that I'm in as a BA. So if it is a software change with a screen and, the project is talking about changing a screen, changing the components of a screen, that's the problem, okay? The problem is that they have a screen that is not as enhanced and optimized as they would like to, and they want to add these components. And whatever those components are, those minute details, those are going to be the requirements that you're going to be gathering. Now, I will get into that in a second here, but just understand you cannot move forward with this until you understand what exactly the project is going to be about. Okay, so you can't just go and expect to gather the requirements that you don't know. Okay, you need to understand what the problem is. Okay, now hopefully we are all on the same page here. We understand the first step, which is understand the project and what. Hopefully you guys can read this. What is the problem being solved? Okay, so again, whatever it is, it could be anything. You could be updating a document. You could be updating a screen. You could be, changing a back end or front end. It doesn't matter, but you have to figure out what it is. Whatever that problem is that you are solving, understand it. Once you have understood it, and now you know, okay, I know what the problem is. I know what we're trying to solve. I know what we're trying to do. Now it's time to go ahead and set
Sir, I
up
have a question here.
meetings.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yeah,
Yeah, please go ahead.
he's saying that the business analyst gathers the requirements and he delivers the requirements to the IT people.
Right.
So what if there is some technical issue with the IT people that they are unable to process that within the given requirements? Then what do they do? Like, does the business analyst an issue or
You are breaking up.
try
I
to
couldn't get
sort
a.
out within them?
Uh-huh.
Hello.
See, okay. There are, a couple of questions here. It's really good question. See, we are trying to understand the requirement from a client and communicating it to IT, right? If there are certain requirement which is not understood by me as an BA, right? What to do? Does
Yes,
that,
yes. Yes, exactly.
that's the question, right?
Okay.
Yes. So I
Because the
can go
BA
to
is a
client.
technical person, right? So that way, what is supposed to be done?
Right. So if I don't understand, I can go back to the stakeholder, or whenever I am having meeting, the best thing is basically to ask a stakeholder. Like if I have any confusion, if I have any doubt, whom can I go to? So he'll give you a contact person to contact, to email, or we're going to look at the techniques, how you do it. But yes, you can go to client and check out, does this Android fits your requirement? Could we use Android? Could we use Java? I'm just trying to use the sample which we have discussed earlier. So we have to go to client if we don't understand. If I understand and my IT team couldn't understand, then I need to sit with them. I need to explain it to them. And basically this is done through documents. Normally this is done through use case. This is done through infrastructure diagram. This can be done through typical performance, non-performance requirement, or the system requirements for that matters, or there's an infrastructure part in the system requirement which is included in the SRS. I'm going to share the template with you so you'll understand what are the points which you have to include in SRS, because it's predefined template, so it's evolved over the time. So BA, if it if he or she completes the SRS, then it's just, refer to this page of the document and you'll understand what you're trying to, do, or you can get your answer from. That's how you can, direct the IT guy to.
Sure.
But to client, you're going to get a contact or a stakeholder which you can go back to and ask for details. If you have, missed it out, or, whatever it may be, or you need further,
Yeah,
details for OS. Sorry, go ahead, please. Does that
You
answer your
told me
question?
earlier, like for any, yes,
Mhm.
yes, absolutely. Thank you.
No. Do you still have any doubt?
No, not at all. Thank you.
Okay, great. Because that's how the BA's role is. It's connecting the client with the IT team. That's how predominantly we work as an BA. So this is what they call it, elicitation. It's really a heavy word, but at the end of the day, what it means, whatever that State Farm guy has said to you or your project manager, you in 8 to 9 bulleted points, you come to your desk, you try to evolve this requirement which can be developed by your IT team. So you are the in-between mediator, or rather you're converting a French to English, something like that, in a layman's term. Okay, so that's how the BA does. Okay.
Okay.
And there are various tools available, tools at your disposal. Means there are some interviewing techniques, there are some survey techniques if the client is in different globe or different time zone. There are certain emailing techniques or templates which you can use to communicate with the given stakeholder, how to make him understand the criticalness of it. That's also kind of BA's maturity and roles and responsibility, so that the client will come back to you as early as possible. I believe all the evolved clients like State Farm, they are forthcoming. Means what they do, they normally fix an appointment with BA nowadays. Hey, Ravindra, I want to sit up with you because I believe we might mislead our solution to a different level, because I want to really use Android, and iPhone and BlackBerry doesn't work nowadays. So let's skip those OS and get that Android thing as early as possible. So because BA prioritize the product, project, and scenario, or those levels, so to make BA more instrumental, or what you can say, more enabled to a given product requirement thing, is really a bright thing or brilliant thing to do as far as client goes. So now clients are also forthcoming or closely working with BA to make the project and product run faster or efficiently or effectively. Believe me, this is happening in today's world. So as an BA, you're going to get the best possible support from your clients. And just to evolve on the example we are talking, all Infosys clients are really matured IT company or banking company or logistic company. So they know what the criticalness of a BA is, and what do you mean by a single bullet point to be extended to functionalities, or a number of functionality in requirement specification or functional specification. These are the two documents which came as an output of a BA. So we're going to understand how a single requirement like build an HR system can be perforated to 80 different requirements in functional specification, and will basically walk the path with your hands-on workshop, so you will know how the BA works in day in day out. Okay, let's try to watch the video again, and please keep asking questions, don't worry on that part. Okay.
With the stakeholders. Okay? This is the next step. Set up your meetings with the business stakeholders. So once I've understood the problem, I'm ready now to go ahead and move on to gather these requirements. So again, the example I always use, which is easy to understand, is a screen being updated. Okay? You've got a screen, a software that the company wants to optimize, the business, I should say, the business stakeholders want to optimize. They've got a bunch of different things they want to do to this page, and they expect you as the business analyst to be able to understand all of the changes so that the developers can go ahead and then code those changes and update the screen. So since you have understood that that is a problem to update the screen, now you set up the meeting with the stakeholders, okay, to do what? To do what I like to call discovery. Okay, now again, requirements gathering, requirements elicitation, same thing. You're discovering the requirements, okay? All right. I'm talking to my stakeholders now. I'm understanding. Okay, we are trying to change the screen. okay? And I know the reason why we're trying to do it. It's not as optimized. And now the question becomes, how or what are these specific changes, okay? So as the BA, you need to ask the right questions. You need to make sure that no stone is unturned. Ask everything about the requirements, okay? So I'll use the example of the screen. What are all the components being changed, being impacted, okay? And what are the, impacts for these other changes that we're not touching? So if it's a toggle, if it's a button, is it, something that we're doing to optimize, a certain area? Like, you have to make sure that you are covering every single thing. So if the business says, basically it's simple, we're going to add 3 buttons on the page, and we're going to go ahead and maybe, remove this portion of it, and we want the screen to be a little, shorter, the text to change, the color should be this and that. So make sure you obviously ask all the right questions, and all the right questions are going to be making sure that all of the requirements are being captured. Now, again, this is also going to depend on the methodology. So that you take. So you can have an Agile versus a waterfall. Should have wrote waterfall here. I don't know what I was writing there. Waterfall methodology. Now, again, these are 2 different methodologies. If you're not aware, check out my other videos. I also talk about this in my course again. And depending on this, this is really going to help you out, because what you're trying to do here, not just obviously understand all the requirements and capture every single one, you're trying to lock down the scope, okay? Because here's the thing. In an Agile format, the scope, making sure that it's locked down, it doesn't have to be, as strict and stringent, because you've got multiple sprints where you can maybe make multiple changes. But in the waterfall methodology, once they said, we're adding 3 buttons, and then they come back to business and says, no, we actually want 4, it's going to be tough to change it. So that's why I'm saying you want to make sure you ask all the right questions, so that the business knows that these are the requirements that you laid out to me, and I'm going ahead and I'm capturing those. You also want to make sure that you are asking the why. Now, again, you understand the project, but you also want to know, okay, you said we're adding 2 buttons here, but can we do 1 and, make it more efficient? Do we need 3 here? Like, those are the questions you need to ask, because if they just tell you, it's not going to be enough for you as a BA to just take it and write it down. You have to ask the why. You have to understand, really, okay, the reasoning for why we need 2 versus 3. Can we reduce it? Can we, go to 1? So ask all those questions. Make sure all of that is covered. And obviously methodology is going to play a part here. And then finally, step number 3 is going to be the obvious step, is you are going to begin writing the requirements. Okay? So different ways to capture it. Again, depends on methodology. If you go by Agile methodology, you're going to do user stories. If you go by waterfall methodology, you'll do something called a BRD, a business requirements document. Now, these are different ways to capture the requirements. But for the most part, it depends on methodology. But yeah, you can go ahead and you can start writing your requirements once you have done the discovery. Now, when I say set up meetings, these are meetings, plural, multiple ones, okay? More than likely, you're not going to get all the requirements in one meeting.
This is really crucial. Means, like, normally what we used to perceive, like, requirement can be closed in one meeting, but that's not the actual practical scenario. You at least will have 3 to 5 meetings, believe me, for requirements. Even in simple, scenario like we discussed about enhancing the attendance management system, right? When you implement Iris Reader. So for that, we'll at least require 3 or 5 meetings, because whenever you go to stakeholder, they need to come up with answers. So in the first meeting, even if you ask few questions, they'll say they'll come back to you, because even they need to discuss this within their organizations. See, enhancing a process is not as simple as ribbon cutting. It's basically things, it basically includes all the organizational gamut of stakeholders, gamut of technology they are currently using, gamut of their thinking. Because whenever you're enhancing anything, whenever you're changing anything, there will be obstructions, right? So even they, as in client, as in State Farm, they need to understand implementing an iris reader is not as simple as they have thought. So they'll come to you with the challenges, you'll come to them with the challenge. So there'll be at least 5 to 6 meeting normally happens, and this is normal. So when you say you not understood, it's really a normal thing. So don't ever feel. And that's why BA role makes it really easy. Only thing is that you need to use your brain. You need to really use it, your thought process, your maturity in bringing this requirement or building this requirement. So if there's somebody who is worked in HR, he can really do excel in the HR. So there are some domain experts who basically are BA nowadays. So we need to understand the domain first. We need to understand or enhance ourselves with the domains, and that's what Gurukul is going to do. So we'll work together for whatever domains you are joining, whatever domains you are going to start working on, and we'll basically make to understand the nitty-gritties of a domain. So there are particular words which banker will use, which IT person won't, which a typical logistic guy or shipping company will use, and IT person don't. So we are basically a mediator between client and IT. So we are going to understand the domain. We're going to make the functionality, criticalness, scenarios, and priorities for IT guys, so that they can build this product, service, project according to our scenarios and our priority mentioned in the document. Okay. And template wise, don't worry on that part, but yeah, we will learn eventually. Okay. So if you have any confusion as in BA while working, it's really free to ask to a client, or even free to arrange a meeting if you feel you feel it's not going to get solved over phone discussion. So you can go and meet the client, and that's normally happens. It's not an exception. Okay. So there's a bit of difference in overall philosophy here as far as BA and a normal working goes.
Or you'll have questions that come up, or you'll have concerns, comments, etc. And so you're probably going to need more than 1 or 2 meetings. And so once you've done all that, then you can go ahead and begin your writing requirements. But again, you don't have to wait to write the requirements until all of this is done. You can start this process and still do this and keep adding to it. Just make sure you understand that by the time you get all of the requirements, the scope doesn't change depending on the methodology that your project is in. Okay, so essentially that is how you do it. How you do requirements gathering. You go ahead and you understand the project. You understand what is the problem being solved. You set up discovery meetings with the business stakeholders, and then you go ahead and you obviously determine the methodology of the project, and then you begin writing the requirements. So hopefully that helps you guys out. If it does, please make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, and please make sure you guys check out my.
Okay, let me start the sharing again. Okay, somebody have sent. Okay, sorry. So I'll just share screen.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
He mentioned 3 points like understand the project. So without meetings or without talking to the stakeholders or the clients, how a BA will be able to understand the project?
But you'll talk to client, na? That's what I'm saying. You normally you go to the client, be it a project manager, be it a CEO, CTO, he'll take you with you. Believe me, that's how it happens. So BA is normally a face of organization also in quite a few way, because you talk to client. You can call to the CIO of a client who basically initiated this project. Normally what happens, even the owner of client, let's say a director at State Farm might have come up with this requirement saying he want to install iris scanner at all office premises, so that whoever is basically falsifying attendance can be really checked out or can be wiped out, right? So those kind of scenario. So you normally talk to this director as well sometime. So that's how the important role is.
So it's kind of a vice versa. Like we will do the meeting first and then we'll understand the project. If I'm not
Come again, I couldn't get your statement.
okay. In that video, he mentioned first understand the project, second point, doing the meeting with the stakeholders or the clients. So like if we are going to meet the stakeholder or the client, that means that should be our first point.
That's right. That's how the critical, BA is. He starts the project process, or, trying to meet whatever is necessary to be done, or build that vision which has to be done and all. So, that's how the critical BA role is. You try to understand the project or the vision from start. You build the scope statement, you build the overall, vision statement also. Vision statement is a basically a statement which I make for a typical engagement or typical, execution to be started, right? Means if you start a new company, you normally try to build this vision statement. If you ever, gone through that process. So the vision statement is basically so important. The scope statement is so important that whatever you say will lead the overall, few years for the Infosys or for your project team, to be precise. So that's how the criticalness of the role is.
Thank
Does
you.
that answer your question completely?
Yes, thank you so much.
No problem, no problem. Okay, now we'll just try to understand what are the roles and titles BA holds in normal scenario, in normal day-to-day activities right now. This is the current scenario. Okay, so the BA can be a business architect, right? He can work to basically improve business, right, for the client and as well as for the Infosys, means the company he's working with, right? So, as an what you can say, employee of Infosys, you are basically going to change the systems, change the project structure within your organization as well, for that matter. So let's say, if you take the example which we were discussing, you go to State Farm and try to build a new attendance management system, the iris scanner, which Infi have never worked with. So Infi have never come with the iris scanner inclusion in the project. So for Infosys, it's a new thing. So it's a learning. They're changing their process. They are enhancing their processes. This will be carried for the next future projects they'll come in. In Infosys, you have something called knowledge base, right? Or KMS, they call it, knowledge management system. This KMS is basically stores all the such enhancement or such learnings from a project. Let's say if a BA starts initiate a process for inclusion of iris scanner in a new project, so all this research and development or research done by you will be gone in a knowledge base under your credible analyst, credible analysis you did for Infosys, and you'll have special awards and incentives for such initiatives if you could take. So it's really depends on how good you are in terms of understanding the requirements, making it more communicative, more symbolic, or more important to the project team. That's whole skill of the BA is. So the more you experience, the more you'll get effective at it. But right now, what we are trying to propose as an at least 3 to 4 years BA experience, so that whatever or whenever you speak, you will come up with such initiatives and will enable you to reach that level to start with. So don't worry on that part. But this is how the overall business analyst role is, right? So you are architect, you are a system analyst because you change the system as well. You are beta analyst because you are the first who tried the product, right? So BAs are the first tester. Beta is basically a level of testing, the initial testing, what you call. So you normally do the designs testing for a product, service, or project. So that's why it says beta analyst. And then you have enterprise analyst. You normally try to include this system within the gamut of technology available within a given organization, right? In this case, State Farm. So we need to understand how that iris scanners is going to work at State Farm. That's how the importance is. And you are of course a management consultant, right? Because you're talking to very senior guys in client place. Your one statement can make and break a relationship as well. But that's the worst scenario. So let's not go and talk that at now. So that's why we have really good amount of tools at the hand of BA. So BA can learn this tool. He can really effectively work with this tools, and then he can basically do this communication to a very senior person in client organizations and get the required information. You are process analyst, that's very crisp and clear. You are a product manager also because you are designing a product, you are managing a product evolution, right? You are a product owner, yes. You own the product in a scenario like you are in the advisory capacity, not product owners as a Scrum product owner role, but you are a product owner as an analyst. You have envisioned the product, you have created the vision, created the scope of a product for a development team. That's how the BA is critical overall. And then you have a requirement engineer, because you are capturing the requirement, you are building it technicality to the requirement, the implementation part of the requirement, how they are going to get implemented throughout the project life cycle. That's for the next couple of months or couple of years for that matters. And you are system analyst as well, because you need to understand the system, you need to understand the operating system, you need to understand the overall nitty-gritty of the communication at that level also. But this comes as a too technical level scenario for a BA. But yes, if you can, then well and good. If you can't, then you can leverage a domain expert available within your organization. So normally Infosys have a team called SMEs, subject matter expert. And if you're working with something like State Farm, so what Infosys will do, he'll give you a name of a SME for Android, or for for ID scanner. It's an embedded technology. So you'll get a resource name or number in your mail saying, okay, just contact Ravindra, and he can be help in your iris scanner, or how to include iris scanner in your project. And he will basically give you all the details, whatever required for your documentation, for your understanding of the requirement for these things. Okay, but this normally happens in a bit of exceptional scenario, because whenever BA get chosen, they are going to look for a domain experts or a technical expert in relevant areas. Okay, so let's not get baffled by these examples, but I'm trying to make sure whatever we are trying to understand in terms of requirements, we must be clear, we must be what you can say evolutive, or we must be definitive in those requirements, so that the scope is frozen at least for that approval cycle, or we call it iteration. Nowadays everybody uses Agile, so we'll talk about Agile methodology also, and we're going to learn the Agile methodology in detail in subsequent classes as well. Okay, any confusion or any difficulty at this moment?
Sir, just one question. You
Go
just
ahead,
said
please.
that based on the iris scanning
Uh-huh.
scanner thing, you have to prepare the questions and ask the stakeholder about it. So how can I prepare the questions as it is immediately at the first instances? What are the questions I'm supposed to ask? I think I asked you last time as well. The same question
No,
is
that's
again.
okay. That's what I said. I have given an example of subject matter experts. So
Hmm.
what you do, the PM who is gone with you to this, stakeholder meeting, that State Farm meeting, right? Might be some guy called, let's say, Keshav, for that matter. I'll go to Keshav and Keshav, I need a guidance on this. I know work with iris scanners. So he'll say, okay, give me a minute. So he'll do click on his internal system, project support system. He'll pull out a name of Ravindra, who is basically working with embedded system. Embedded system means, I'll not go into details now. I work with robotics. So robotics is basically kind of embedded method, technology. Here you have quite a chunk of technology, various platforms and technology meet together to build a robot, right? You've seen robots, right?
Yeah.
It's a collection of tools and technologies and platform, frankly speaking. So but they are like small operating system, like Android, not like Windows is a big operating system, right? You can't put Windows on a smartphone, but you can have a smartphone included in your Windows as an emulated device and all, right? So those kind of scenario. So we are talking about an expert who is expert in embedded methodology or the iris scanner which are available in the market. So he also, if he don't know, he'll go on the Google, he'll call the iris product scanner product company and trying to get the details of a typical iris scanner, and will come back to you. But you are the contact point, so you need to learn, or you need to understand how this iris thing bloody works. That's a kind of learning also. So BA, that's why we require quite a good amount of time in preparing 7 to 8 page document also. You normally given weeks or days to, because you need to, there's a learning involved, right? So you also learn, you also evolve on your work experience. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, still I have a bit of confusion, but
Go
yeah,
go ahead. Ask. We are here to learn, right? Even others also learn. So don't worry, please. Go ahead.
the thing is, I was wondering what would be the first few set of questions that would come, like when we get a project and we are talking about a certain software, like you said, Iris thing. So,
Uh-huh.
what would be the first questions that we would be asking the stakeholders or the
Mm-hmm.
SMEs
Mm-hmm.
that we could how could we make it, improve it, or
Okay,
develop it
I
further?
understood your dilemma. Okay, let's give a scenario to it. Let's give an environment to it. Okay, you and let's say a person A have gone to State Farm. You came back, and now you got a question कि boss ये iris scanner क्या होता है? मैंने कभी देखा नहीं, सुना नहीं.
Exactly.
So you go to your project manager because I came with you for the meeting and say कि रविंद्र ये iris scanner क्या चीज़ है यार? किधर डालते हैं? मीन्स क्या करते हैं इसका? कुछ जलाने के लिए वो आईडी स्कैनर यूज तो कर रहे. मैंने बोला नहीं क्योंकि क्लाइंट था सामने और नॉर्मली सो व्हाट आई विल से किसी आईडी स्कैनर इज अ डिवाइस in some really go to if you go to something like Bank of America vault, vault locker रहते हैं अपने यहाँ, यूएस में उसको vault बोलते हैं. So you keep your valuables there. वहाँ पे उन लोग आईडी स्कैनर लगाना हमने वो 8 साल पहले से चालू कर चुके थे. So there you have those आईडी स्कैनर्स. और अरे मूवीज में दिखाते हैं ना, बहुत सारे मूवीज में दिखाया है. You seen आईडी स्कैनर राइट? वो आंख पे से ऐसा लाइट जाता है. Have you seen any movie? बहुत सारी मूवीज में दिखाते हैं आईडी स्कैनर. It's still technology at a nascent stage, but I'm trying to what you can say explain the situation to you. किसने देखा है स्कैनर? आईलिड जो बोलते हैं ना, अपना आंख स्कैन होता है. अरे बहुत सारी हिंदी मूवीज में भी है, हिंदी तेलुगु मूवीज.
It's like
आपने देखा नहीं कभी?
I've seen in Men in Black, they scan
अरे
something
हाँ,
to the.
exactly. So that thing, it's in implementation phase right now. It's still maturing right now. That's why I took that example. So what I'll say कि एक तो ये मूवी देख लो आप कि आईरिस स्कैनर क्या होता है, आपको पता चलेगा. अब बात की बात करते हैं अपन. सो ये आपने जाके घर जाके मूवी देखा रात को, अरे यार अच्छी चीज है, ये करनी चाहिए, अपने भी चाहिए. तो आईरिस क्या रहता है, अपने आंख में ना एक पैटर्न रहता है. अगर आप आईरिस देखेंगे तो काफी सारे इसमें है. तो वो आंख का पैटर्न बहुत स्पेशल रहता है या डिफरेंट रहता है, वो नॉर्मली कॉमन नहीं था. इट्स लाइक फिंगरप्रिंट. देयर हार्डली 1 in a billion where these irises can be similar. Fingerprint, it's million thing. So once in a 10 million fingerprint can be similar, but iris it's 1 in a billion. So the exclusivity of a user can be maintained for attendance, right? और किसी की आंख लेके आप अटेंडेंस पे यहाँ नहीं जा सकते, राइट? फिंगरप्रिंट का क्या है, वो स्टिकर पे लगा के, जेम्स बॉन्ड की मूवी में आपने देखा होगा, राइट? कि स्टिकर पे लगा के वो इस पे लगाता है फिंगरप्रिंट स्कैनर पे, और फिंगरप्रिंट स्कैनर उसको यूज करता है, राइट? सो दैट वे. सो आईरिस इज मच मोर इंडिपेंडेंट एंड मच मोर एनहांस्ड टेक्नोलॉजी नाउ. सो एक एक्सक्लूसिविटी मिलती है, और जो भी यूजर यूज कर रहा है उसका अगर आपने आईरिस स्कैन किया तो वो वंस इन अ बिलियन होगा. तो आई विल मेक श्योर he or she is the correct person to have given access to that room or that vault or whatever it may be. ठीक है? So what Ravindra will say, give me a minute, he'll search for the SME available for iris scanner. अगर किसी ने Infosys के डेटाबेस में किसी ने iris पे काम किया है क्या? क्योंकि as a project manager or as a what I can say business owner, I have access to that knowledge base within within Infosys intranet, right? Intranet, right? कंपनी का इंटरनल इंटरनेट जो रहता है जिसमें वो पूरा डेटा शेयर रहता है, उसमें से एक नाम निकालेगा वो. लेट्स से केशव इज दैट पर्सन हु बेसिकली वर्कड ऑन आईरिस स्कैनर बिफोर. उसने 6-7 महीने पहले कोई प्रोजेक्ट किया था, उसमें आईरिस स्कैनर लगाया था. तो मैं क्या करूंगा, केशव को बुलाऊंगा, अपन 3 जन बैठेंगे साथ में, एंड देन ही विल ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन हाउ द आईरिस स्कैनर वर्क्स. तो उसका क्या ओएस रहेगा, कुछ तो भी कनेक्टर रहता होगा जो कनेक्ट होता होगा आपके प्रोजेक्टर, कंप्यूटर या लैपटॉप पे. यूएसबी कनेक्टर रहता होगा, उसका कुछ ड्राइवर रहता होगा. Then it might be enabled for Windows, Unix, Linux. ठीक है ना? So ये सब कथा कहानी वो बताएगा आपको, and you will include this thing after understanding to your document. कि saying okay, iris scanner इसका ये रिक्वायरमेंट है, इसका अभी ये वर्जन है, ये कंपनीज है अवेलेबल जो iris scanner सपोर्ट करती है, और ये कॉस्ट है. सो प्रोजेक्ट टीम का काम है फिर कि उसको जस्टिफाई करना विच इज बेटर और विच इज नॉट, और इवन दे कैन कॉल केशव इन देयर मीटिंग. ठीक है, अपन देखेंगे वो एक स्क्रम मीटिंग करके रहता है, उसमें नॉर्मली ऑल दिस एसएमईस विल बी कॉल्ड टू जस्टिफाई द डिसीजन व्हिच हैव टेकन. BA will be part of this decision, but he is in advisory capacity. The onus is on project manager. ठीक है, तो ये project manager का ownership है. But you will be in advisory capacity. So you must understand कि iris scanner क्या है, उसका टेक्नोलॉजी क्या है, प्लेटफॉर्म क्या है. ये 1-2 घंटे का काम है, बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा काम नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी इट्स रियली अ नीड ऑफ द आवर टू अंडरस्टैंड एज एन BA. सो यू ऑल्सो कीप ग्रोइंग. ये जॉब बोर नहीं है, ये जॉब सही में अच्छा है, क्योंकि ये नई नई चीज आप सीखते हो, राइट, नई नई चीज आप समझते हो, तो ये बहुत अच्छी चीज है. फ्रैंकली स्पीकिंग, यू विल एंजॉय दिस जॉब, बिलीव मी. डज दैट आंसर योर क्वेश्चन कि और भी कुछ कंफ्यूजन है?
No. Yeah, thanks.
Great. So I see नई चीजें सीखने मिलते हैं. It's really helps you out to grow, to learn new things, and that's why this job a bit of challenge and bit of enjoyment. इसलिए मैं बोलता हूँ कि satisfaction मिलता है BA के रोल में. और आप डेवलपमेंट नहीं कर रहे हो कुछ, आप जाके बैग लेके उसको परचेस करने नहीं आओगे, या you won't bang your head on बॉस ये iOS पे क्यों नहीं चलता है, एंड्रॉइड पे क्यों चलता है. No, that's job of that SME to do it for you. In case if he says works on Android, you need to mention in your document as per SME Mr. Keshav, he suggested Android is the best, and that's all. That's that end here. Even abhi all these meetings are recorded. Means एक साउंड रिकॉर्डर आते हैं, अगर आपने देखा होगा, उसमें सब मीटिंग्स रिकॉर्ड होती है, एंड दैट MP3 फाइल आल्सो गेट अटैच्ड ऑन द नॉलेज बेस, और दे कॉल इट प्रोजेक्ट फैमिलियराइजेशन रिपोजिटरी. तो उसमें हम लोग ये MP3 डालते हैं, मीटिंग डेट टाइम और किसके साथ मीटिंग थी, ये सब डिटेल्स उसमें देते हैं हम लोग, राइट. सो टेक्नोलॉजी आल्सो हेल्प्स BA nowadays quite a lot, and that's how we also evolve. ठीक है, so let's move ahead. Now let's try to understand what is the overall requirement as in ये भूत क्या करता है, भूत ने क्या करना चाहिए. So this overall cycle of requirements what a BA does normally. So we try to understand why do I want it. ये स्टेट फॉर्म को जरूरत क्यों पड़ी है कि एक्स्ट्रा iris स्कैनर लगाने की, ये आपको समझना बहुत जरूरी है एज एन BA. So BA must understand the requirement, the scope of the requirement, and the criticality of requirement. If you are not understood, then it's really useless to elicit or evolve this requirement further. So requirement understanding is the basic prime responsibility of a BA. To understanding what the client is trying to say to you, what the what the client actually requires on a ground. That's why we normally visit to client places. We normally visit with a stakeholder, but we visit to a client place and try to understand how he is going to share the requirement with you. What are actually the needs in the philosophical sense, not the technical sense. iris scanner चाहिए, attendance management के लिए चाहिए. Okay, good. Now I am trying to understand. So what do I want as a solution? So solution को क्या चाहिए? एक नया iris scanner बिठाना है अपने को. So we need to understand the iris scanner environment. We need to understand the iris scanner connections, the way it's going to connect. So its OS, my OS, how the overall server will communicate to iris scanner, not to an nth level, but overall just to suggest to a solution architect who will basically define the structure and whatnot. But I need to suggest him, okay, the Philips one is the better, Sony one is better, or something like that. But I'm in an advisory capacity at that moment. I don't own it. I own the requirements and the suggestion, but the project and product ownership are of relevant stakeholders. Okay, but you are in an advisory capacity, so your advising does make a lot of weight on his documents as well. We'll see how and how the whole product and project gets shipped out whenever BA suggest a requirement to a solution architect or solution project manager for that matters, or a chief stakeholder in that scenario, and then transition this requirement from a client to the IT team, that triangle which he Capola guy shown you, right? So that transition of requirement is also plays an important part throughout the project or product life cycle, so that whatever you give as a requirement are get evolved, are get created on the ground as in product or services. Okay, does anybody have any questions on this? Okay, let's go ahead. I believe we are there, right? Means it's not like computer is listening to this thing, right?
no. Yes, I'm there.
Okay, thank you. I really like to have live participants. So we seen this, right? Agenda also same thing we've seen. So these are the different tracks a BA normally works on. BA with the product can be a BA, associate project manager, or product manager. This is a kind of career progression as well. So a BA can be a business analyst, then he can be a consultant or domain SME, because you keep learning new things, you keep learning new technologies like iris scanners, and then he can be a principal product owner or a principal consultant, and then he can be a partner. You can start your own company if you really find a good idea to build a new product or new service, right? So this has happened actually. And there are business architectures. So you basically be an architect, or suggest a new idea, because you learn so many new technology. With these new technologies, understanding and knowledge, you can be a really great architect, so that the solution which I suggest are really utilizing with latest technologies and methodologies, which we can work effectively or build it with great profits. And then digital transformation. So we've seen this thing, how BA can be a great help in digital transformation, because BA learn new technology, new methodologies, new adaptability to the given scenarios. That's how he can be really great help in building the organizational technology portfolio, or suggesting or giving its contributory input to overall building the technology stack or technology map of the overall organization for that matters. Okay, let's move ahead. We are talking about, now we talked a lot about analysis. Let's try to understand what is analysis is, right? So what is really inclusion, what is really exclusion, or how we can basically enhance the analyst one in one out. And let's try to understand the input and output of overall this analysis process as a business analyst, right? So on the left hand side, all these inputs, and on right hand side, there are all outputs. So what we start with a mission, we start with a scope, we start with overall client's wish list, saying I need to build a better attendance management system. I try to understand the principle, the major factors which are affecting this or driving this overall requirement. I try to understand the goals, what they want to achieve. This can be as vague as I want to be the smartest person on the earth. It happens, believe me. And then you build measure out of it. You create some data points. You really build some collection methods, like how we can achieve these data points, and how we can achieve whatever they say as in wish list, right? And then we have some tactics also given by a client, saying you some action areas that I want to improve the attendance management, because there are quite a few falsifying events happened in the past. There are some policy which can be changed within for client, for our organization also for that matters. And then we'll build the activities pertaining to these evolution of these requirements. So we can build new processes, we can build some new system, new tools, products, services, forms and templates, and so on and so forth. So there is the input and there is output. So this is analysis at the crux of it. Okay, so this is a basic analysis, how the analysis works for a given analyst as a person, as an executioner. Okay, any confusion on this slide? We will basically learn with the help of tools how to do it. So let's keep the how out of this right now, because we are trying to understand what do you mean by analysis, what do we do exactly on the ground. This is what the tree depicts overall. Okay, now requirement gathering. We talked about quite a lot on requirement gathering. Now how to do it, or what is the process to do it. Okay, now as overall we understand, like we drive the project definition. We basically try to build the vision scope for a project, product, or service for that matters. We elicit the requirement, we evolve the requirement to a level where it can be implemented by the team like IT, right? We do the analysis of the wish list, as we've seen, we do the analysis of these many areas, and we create these points. So here I am creating an analysis of input and creating documentations or required process maps for the execution of the said requirements. Then I build traceability also. Traceability is tracking the wish list of a stakeholder to a functionality which is embedded in the product. So when I say iris scanner to be included at a client place, I need to build the traceability. Who said it, when said it, at what point it was a really critical requirement with the top priority, how I evolved it to a level where I can implement a iris scanner at a client location. That's the overall traceability of it. We'll see the tools, we'll try to learn the tools available, and even how to trace it in a typical Excel sheet. So we'll learn those things. Okay, and then sign off. Sign off is basically the approval. Who and why he can approve these requirements, who or he can basically, because every approvals have a responsibility of budgets, right? There are certain budgets to it. When you say I want an iris scanners, I should have a budget to purchase iris scanner and integrate it with the given product or given attendance system at my place, right? So all these sign off and approvals are crucial, and BA shoulders the responsibility of approving these things in every project. So that's how we can leverage the SMEs within our organizations. We can leverage whatever team we had as an seniors, as a PM, solution architect, to make sure whatever has been signed off is crucial and critical, and it's required for the given project implementation, right? So this is really important part, because this is the overall responsibility of a BA to get sign off in couple of documents. We'll talk about those documents, and we'll talk about those processes as well where the sign off is needed. Okay, so then impact of poor requirements. This is kind of negative slide, but I have included it to understand how the things can go downhill if a BA doesn't pay attention or BA skip a requirement, right? Normally I used to show this at the end of the training, but I have included it in the start to make you understand the criticalness of the requirement gathering, right? Because business comes with you a strategic goal, a competitive position, a market compliance. We also engage stakeholders at a very higher level as a BA. We also build the business processes efficiency. We improve the efficiency, positive user experience. We talk to users. We talk to overall, clients on day-to-day line. We are the bottom line in terms of understanding the business or understanding the need. That was the scope of the overall project, the vision of the project or product. And then we are cohesive in IT. We build the landscape, right? We improve the landscape. We build an efficient working environment for everybody. It's a kind of what I can say, enhanced statement, but yes, we at a larger scale as in BA, we do build a cohesive IT landscape, believe me. And then we build a project, we define the project, we also define the budget. So we normally tend to add to it, tend to subtract to it. So whatever we suggest in advisory capacity does play a very crucial and important part, right? So we do have a great impact on project resources, projects process design, the user interface, the specification. We create specification, means we'll see a template called requirement specification, functional specification, where BA plays an important part. This is a kind of output for a typical BA's day-to-day working. Then we have a crucial part in software testing as well. So whenever software testing parts starts, BA is as an advisory and contributory part in overall these testing facilities. Then we also enable the code rework. So when you test and when there is a bug or error, we tend to create these reworks, right? So the BA's inputs in these reworks are really crucial. We drive the overall cost of reworks and so cost of quality imperatively. And then we have solution integration. So when iris scanner is going to integrate with the state farms current technologies, we will make or break, work or break, frankly speaking, for that matters. So BA's decisions or BA's requirements make it really crucial for the next few months or few years of a project and process or those life cycles. So that's why BA is a really crucial part in overall day-to-day life cycle for a given project, support or services. Okay, so I believe you understood the criticality of BA role, right? Any confusion at this moment?
No.
I have a little doubt.
Please go ahead.
In slide 18, you have mentioned documentation and traceability. So what is the difference between this? Like, in documentation we do all kind of document ही करते हैं ना कि हमने अभी आपने स्टेक होल्डर से बात किया, अभी हमने ये किया, तो सारे डॉक्यूमेंट करते हैं. सो देन व्हाई वी नीड अ ट्रेसेबिलिटी पार्ट?
Right. It's a really good question. Traceability is a new what you can say buzzword which came into last decade or so. See, traceability is basically to track if there's any breakage. Let's say there's a bug getting repeated at a functional level. Let's say iris scanner हमने implement किया था स्टेट फार्म के लिए, और ऐसा हो रहा है कि जो मैंने iris स्कैनर लेट्स से फिलिप्स का सपोर्ट किया था, वो लाइट ब्लू आइज वाले को तकलीफ देता है. Let's try to understand from a mistake point of view, right? So project manager will come to BA and say कि बॉस, जब अपन ने ये टेस्ट किया था, सब अपन ने कोई लाइट ब्लू आंख वाला बंदा नहीं चेक किया था क्या ये आइरिस के लिए? फिलिप्स का आइरिस स्कैनर लाइट ब्लू के साथ काम नहीं करता, ऐसा अभी पता चल रहा है. सो देन बी विल से कि नहीं, ये जो रीजन है इसमें लाइट ब्लू वाले बहुत कम लोग रहते हैं, इसलिए हमने नहीं किया था. सो बोलेगा ओके, तो फिर सोनी का सजेस्ट करते हैं उनको. ठीक है, तो फिर बीए बोलेगा कि एज पर मेरे डॉक्यूमेंट से मैंने लिखा था वहां के कि दीज आर प्रोज एंड कॉन्स ऑफ अ सजेस्टेड आइरिस स्कैनर. तो इसमें नीला था, लाइट ब्लू का थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम है फिलिप्स के साथ, तो सोनी का लगा देते. सो मैं क्या बोलूंगा कि स्टेट फार्म के किसी एक दरवाजे पे सोनी का चिपका दो, सो दैट हुएवर इज लाइट ब्लू दे कैन गो वाया दैट थिंग, सो दैट whatever creep or seepage happening there will be prevented, so that problem is addressed, right? So as far as overall BA goes, he built this traceability which is important for implementing a functionality. So किसी ने बोला था iris scanner means आई स्कैन करना है, बट उसने ये नहीं सोचा था कि लाइट ब्लू वाला फिलिप्स के साथ नहीं काम करता है, फिलिप्स वाला सोनी से हाफ प्राइस पे आता है, right? And these are the practical challenges which I am trying to share with you so that you can understand the problem in depth. But जब मैंने ट्रेसेबिलिटी बनाया था, ये जो ट्रैक है ना उसको ट्रेसेबिलिटी बोलते हैं कि रिक्वायरमेंट है और ये उसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है. बीच में हमने डॉक्यूमेंट्स बनाए, डायग्राम बनाए, इससे बात की उससे बात की, वो सब सही है, बट ये इन्होंने बोला था एज एन स्टेट फॉर्म रिक्वायरमेंट, और ये मैंने इंप्लीमेंट किया था. और ये ट्रेसेबिलिटी पे जहां भी प्रॉब्लम है वहां मैं मॉडिफाई करके फिर से मैं इंप्लीमेंट कर दूंगा. सो परचेसिंग अ सोनी आइरिस स्कैनर इज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ स्टेट फॉर्म which is suggested by BA and then by project manager as an improvement to the scanning process. Problem है क्या है? Problem रहते हैं, but how to improve it with this traceability or with this track is how it's effectively planned nowadays, because we work in agile environment, right? So agile environment में क्या होता है कि requirement change होता है काफी बार, तो इस तरीके से we modify. So that's how we use this traceability thing. So document are the element in the overall chain or the execution path or the overall workflow, but referring to document and getting improved process and basically building this complete track from requirement to implementation. ठीक है ना? So ये जो है इसको traceability बोलते हैं. Have you understood this?
So traceability part comes in the picture once the project is completed and we
No. Traceability start with the first meeting. It's a track, right? ये पूरा ट्रैक है, तो गाना स्टार्टिंग से नहीं सुनोगे तो मजा नहीं आएगा, ऐसी कहानी है.
Plain like okay, कोई ब्लू आईज वाले हमने वो लगा दिए जो आइरिस है, किसी ब्लू वाले को वो इफेक्ट कर रहा है, तो जब तक हम उसका टेस्टिंग नहीं करेंगे तो हमको कैसे पता चलेगा वो ब्लू आई वाले को इफेक्ट कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है?
हाँ, तो टेस्टिंग होती है ना, मींस इसलिए तो एवरी प्रोडक्ट सर्विस और प्रोजेक्ट हैव देयर टेस्टिंग्स.
Okay.
यहाँ पे भी दिया है, अगर आप यहाँ पे इम्पैक्ट देखेंगे ना, यहाँ पे सॉल्यूशन टेस्टिंग दिया हुआ है. सो बीए इज अ क्रूशियल पार्ट इन टेस्टिंग. अब आजकल क्या होता है, एक जीरा करके सॉफ्टवेयर है, उसमें पूरे रिजल्ट आते हैं कि ये टेस्ट किया था, ये टेस्ट हुआ क्या, नहीं हुआ, इतने बार फेल हुआ, इतने बार पास हुआ, बिकॉज नाउ वी वर्क इन ए क्लाउड एनवायरनमेंट, राइट? सो एक जीरा करके सॉफ्टवेयर है जिसमें लिख के आता है टेस्ट पास फेल, लाल पीला हरा कुछ दिखता है उसमें. अगर आप देखेंगे कभी स्क्रीन तो वी विल हैव अ लुक एट जीरा आल्सो, डोंट वरी. सो ये जो टेस्टिंग है ना, टेस्टिंग प्लेज अ क्रूशियल पार्ट इन बीए's रोल, बिकॉज व्हाटएवर आपने ट्रेसेबिलिटी में बनाया था, ट्रेसेबिलिटी मैट्रिक्स बोलते हैं, ये भी सॉफ्टवेयर में आता है या एक्सेल शीट में भी बना सकते हैं. कि स्टार्टिंग में मैंने स्टेट फॉर्म ने ये बंदे से बात की थी, इसमें से ये 8 रिक्वायरमेंट निकला था, उसके इवॉल्वमेंट के बाद यहाँ पे ये रिक्वायरमेंट है जो सिस्टम रिक्वायरमेंट स्पेसिफिकेशन में पेज नंबर 6 पे मेंशन था, फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट स्पेसिफिकेशन में पेज नंबर 60 पे मेंशन था, एंड दिस इज हाउ इट गॉट टेस्टेड. दिस इज वर्जन ऑफ सॉफ्टवेयर व्हिच इज रिलीज्ड, mentioned in Jira, labeled in Jira, and this is what the test is passed. उसके बाद रिलीज होगा वो स्टेट फार्म को. So ये सारी जो बैंड पार्टी है, सॉरी एग्जीक्यूशन जो है ना, ये ट्रेसेबिलिटी है. सो यू बिल्ड अ कंप्लीट ट्रेस कि मैं घर से निकला, यहाँ गया, वहां गया, सब्जी लिया, ग्रोसरी लिया, वापस आया. So traceability is the complete path which I walked on, right?
Now I understood.
Any other questions?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. See, we are here to learn, right? And if you start understanding, the life will be much easier on later stage. So बाद में जब अपन जीरा देखेंगे ना, so you might come to me saying कि यहाँ पे traceability नहीं दिख रही है. So जीरा में traceability नहीं दिखती है, but your Excel sheet, or if the organization have some intranet, तो इंटरनेट पे कुछ वेब पेज रहते हैं जहां पे ट्रेसेबिलिटी दिखती है. सो यहाँ का टेस्ट केस पास फेल का उधर रिफ्लेक्शन हुआ कि नहीं, ये अपने को देखना पड़ता है. एंड दिस इज व्हाट द ओवरऑल इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ आईटी सॉल्यूशंस इज ऑल अबाउट. इन्फी में आई थिंक ट्रेसेबिलिटी मैट्रिक्स करके एक सॉफ्टवेयर ही है, दे कॉल इट ट्रेसेबिलिटी मैट्रिक्स. इट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ देयर इंट्रानेट. So whenever you log in as an employee, if you're a BA, you'll have a look at the complete traceability from a requirement to end. And this is basically depicted in a fishbone diagram. वो अपन पढ़ेंगे. So don't worry, we'll have this traceability, we'll have this overall traceability tracking also. Okay, so let's move ahead. बाकी किसी को कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं ना? I hope nobody has any questions. Now this is also a slide from a BA book where we are trying to understand how business analysis roles and responsibility overlaps with all the other in a given organizations. Be it something like PO is product owner, PM is project manager, and overall how this responsibility overlaps each other. So BA basically understanding requirement, carrying details, clarifying the details, questioning, qualifying, formalizing, building requirements, non-functional, functional requirement. ये BA का responsibility है. Now if you look at product owner, it builds a product strategy. क्यों चाहिए, क्या चाहिए, कहाँ से चाहिए. So we build a business case as a product owner. Forget about story. Story is basically kind of tools we use to qualify the requirement in Agile methodology, in Scrum basically. ठीक है. Then backlog refinement is also Scrum part. Then we'll have acceptance testing. It's our testing part. Facilitating, customer focus. ये product owner की responsibilities है, right? So ensure user stories are ready. User story is basically singular functionality. We convert it as a user story. We'll have look at that thing when we do UML, frankly speaking. And then we basically have backlog grooming. This is a part of Scrum overall. Then we build the overall collaboration with development team. BA closely work with development team. Be it as a tester, be it as in advisory capacity. Okay, and then we build the acceptance criteria, build the overall business engagement with the stakeholder as well, because we are interacting with stakeholder from first day basis. So that's how the product owner and BA overlap. Now let's try to understand product owner and BA and PM. So we are basically steering towards the goal, what is defined in project scope, how to control project scope, how to control the business case justification, because PM is an implementer. So whatever he or she basically devise have an impact on the budget. He basically develops the thing on the ground. He's an implementer on the ground, right? So he has to build some alternative analysis also. हमने फिलिप्स का क्यों लगाया था? क्योंकि आधे कीमत पे आता है. सोनी का क्यों नहीं लगाया? क्योंकि कीमत डबल है. आपको चाहिए तो हम लगा देते हैं, बिकॉज हमको नहीं लगा था कि नीले आंख वाले बहुत ज्यादा लोग होंगे आपके पास. So ये कहानी आती है. So you could justify why and what also, but that's the responsibility of PM. Responsibility of BA is to build the traceability. And put there कि बॉस फिलिप्स में कुछ लोगों ने बोला है कि नीले आंख वाले का ठीक से नहीं आता है. So even one statement can really justify the whole goal as far as BA goes. As far as PM goes, the ownership is at nth level. So कुछ भी होता तो PM को पकड़ती है, but BA is also kind of in advisory capacity, kind of building the overall process and vision mission for PM as well. We do the overall collaborating, we do the modeling as far as PM goes. So that's the PM's responsibility. And we also have the optional proposals, options available, and so on and so forth, right? So these are the basically roles and responsibility, how we closely work with these roles. We normally work with product owner who can be CIO, CTO. We can be work with PM who is basically an implementer of overall solutions, right? So we work in advisory capacity with both these really crucial roles in a given organizations. We'll have a look at each and every of these elements in depth throughout the training. So this is just a kind of gist, and I like this slide because it clearly differentiate the roles and responsibilities and the overlaps as well. So this is really a good part to understand what BA does in a day in day out. Okay, so this is really a good slide from interview angle as well, for that matters. Now requirement hierarchy. Now when we talk about various requirements, how the requirement can be categorized, how the requirements can be put in a subgroup, so that we can understand whom these requirements are coming from, how we can really improve this requirement process day in day out, right? So that's how this diagram works. We have some business requirements, like I need to have an better attendance management system. Now stakeholder requirements. At a stakeholder level, I am implementing an iris scan, so I am improving the overall biometric attendance system to a new level, which is available technologically to me at this moment. And then we build this solution requirement for a typical project or product or service execution. So we will build some functional requirements, we build some non-functional requirement. This is a part of business requirement document. Okay, functional requirement and non-functional requirement, these are live documents. Live documents in the sense, these documents gets updated each and every project life cycle. So whenever you have a Scrum meeting, whenever we basically change the priorities and scenario of a particular requirement, the functional specification get updated. The non-functional specification also gets updated, because there are priority change in terms of requirements, right? But normally we release the system SRS, system requirement specifications, once in a month or twice, once in twice,
Hello?
2 months kind of scenario. Whenever you have a really
Hello?
crucial basic, yeah, go ahead please. Could you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Sorry. Hello? Is the sound stopped or something?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, you can. Okay, great. So I can continue, right? So, we are talking about if there's a really good impacted requirement change, then only we normally update the system requirement section. We'll have a look at that template in depth in a couple of next slides. Now let's try to understand what we call 7 steps or better requirement gathering. This is a really good video. Let's try to let me try to share this thing with you. Okay, now if I go here, new share, I want to share these things. Could you see this? This is by Edward Shea, PMP, BGMP, and all those things. So this is a really process guy. So we are trying to understand how the overall requirement gathering can be, make it better. This guy has a model of 7 steps for requirement gathering. So just try to understand. Means we are trying to make sure whatever we gather are up to a nth level good. We can have a couple of more meetings, no problem in that. But whatever we gather as in requirements must have a conclusive scope to it, and then we can share it with the team. Okay, so we'll try to build some better requirement gathering with all these practical solutions provided by these teams. It's really good one. Let's have a look at this.
Hello, my name is Ed Shihab, and I'm going to talk to you about a 7-step process for how you would go about collecting requirements for your project. First, let's talk about what a requirement is. A requirement is either a condition or a capability that is required from you by a stakeholder for a specific project. So when we talk about conditions, we might mean contractual terms, obligations, compliance requirements, timeframes, or budgets, or policies that you need to comply with. When we talk about capabilities, these could be features that your stakeholders need. So something like it must be blue, or it must be 8 feet high, or it must run at a certain speed. These are capabilities that your solution needs to have. So it's either going to be a condition or it's going to be a capability. Okay, the first step is understand the need. This is
what we talk about, overall vision building, right? The scope building. So we need to understand the need of the business. When the stakeholder says, I need to build better, attendance management system, that's what the basic business need is. That's what the scope, right? So I'm going to help State Farm to do better better attendance management system, right? Then how and when, and then it'll come later. But overall, I need to understand the vision of the requirement, or the basic need of the requirement, or the basic need of the outcome which is planned by the business. It can be a strategy, it can be a problem I'm going to solve, it can be a new requirement for enhancing the system, right? We are clear on this topic, right? There's no confusion. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
This goal is to first meet with the sponsor or whoever is asking you for this and understand what is their need. What is the outcome that they're looking for? Can you put some numbers against that outcome? Do you have all the specifics? Do you know how many people will be impacted by this? Do you know why they want this? What sorts of performance are they looking to get out of this? What issue is this supposed to be resolving? So that kind of clarity early on in the project will ensure that you're on the right track. So assuming you're able to get a business need, then the next step that you want to do here is find out your limitations or your constraints. So ask yourself, what are my constraints? How much time do I have? So time is one of those. Money is another one of these. Resources, and there could be some other constraints like rules and policies and regulations. So ask yourself, what are the constraints that I have? And put a plan, and you're going to put a plan to deliver within that time frame or within that budget. So basically, if I have a critical need and I'm coming to you, you're the business analyst, and I'm asking you to get something done that we're looking to roll out in 3 months, then your business analysis process definitely can't take that long, can't take 3 months. You'll probably want to take about a month, month and a half, because you got to consider there's an implementation process. Somebody's got to go and code this, and then they got to build the system, and then they got to test it. So you have a very limited time frame to work with, and that time frame, you need to understand it. All right. So assuming you know what your constraints are, then you need to go to the third step. In the third step, you have to ask yourself, do I know what I need to know? So what does this mean? Let's say you ask me to implement SharePoint across the organization, or maybe you ask me to convert all of our printing into some centralized printing solution. My question to myself would be, what does this take? Do I know the technology? Do I know how many people? Do I know the location? Do I know how much? Do I know what specific functionality you're looking for? Do I know the volume of work that is going to go through the system? So those questions that I have in mind are going to be answered by specific people or certain documentation. So in this third step, you want to know everything that is still missing for information. So now what you're going to do is create a list that says item number 1 that I need to know is how many people will use this solution.
So this is like the iris scanner which we talked about. We don't know, right? So we need to go somewhere where we can find this detail. So we can leverage somebody from stakeholder like State Farm or Infosys in my organization. So in my organization, I know I have something called SMEs, which can be channeled via project managers. Now here, he's talking about stakeholder basically. So we could go to stakeholder as well. See, go to stakeholders saying, boss, can I have somebody who used iris in your, or have you done some proof of concept? Like, have you able to use, but this is normally not the scenario. You normally don't go to client. In a normal case, you normally try to find solution within an organization, within the organization whom the problem is shared with. So we shoulder the responsibility as in development organizations for State Farm to build this iris scanners and this interface. Okay. So to search within our team is better always as a BA than to go and ask to client stakeholder. We'll have a look at this thing in details when we do workshop and all, right?
Item number 2, how much are they willing to spend? which was probably covered in step number 2 here in the constraints. Item number 3, for example, the location. Item number 4, are there any rules that I need to follow? Item number 5, what, maybe what systems are in place right now that will need to be replaced by the new system. So you will need to figure out, you need to make a list of all the things that you need to figure out for this solution. So assuming you figured out all the items that you need clarification on, then you go to step number 4. And step number 4 is who or what can provide me this information. And the who would be people. These would be your stakeholders in the organization. Could be business managers, department heads, could be your colleagues, could be the admins who are going to be using the solution. So now you know there are certain pieces of information that you need to collect. Let's say you needed to collect informations A, B, C, D, and E. The question is, who provides me the information for A? Who provides me the information for B? And if it's not who, then what? It is probably a document. It is probably something that is published on the internet, or maybe it's a supplier that you need to get in touch with who can provide you such information. So here, what you want to do is you want to connect who, which is a person, with the information that you need to collect. Or if it's not a who, it's probably going to be a document, a database, or some form of documented information, whether it's digital or in paper, or it could be from a supplier, but what will provide you the information? So between the who's and the what's, you should be able to figure out the sources of where the information is going to come from. All right, so if you figured the who and the what, then you go to the 5th step. And in the 5th step would be, how will I collect the information? Now the how, those are requirements gathering techniques. And these techniques would vary depending on what it is that you need to collect. So step number 5 will be the techniques that you will use in collecting requirements. Interviews, workshops, focus groups, and you could also go to the what, which is, document review, and research, market research, benchmarking. You could reach out to suppliers, ask for manuals, review them. These are all the what's and the who's. You could also do prototyping. You could do brainstorming sessions, and there's quite a few techniques. So what you need to do now is come up with a plan, not a plan, but a list, or identify against every requirement what technique you're going to use. So I'm going to just remove this stuff from the top. And let's just say I have a requirement. Requirement 1, for example, number of users. Number of users that will be using this system. So that's my first requirement, right? And I figured IT manager is going to be the person that provides that information. Then the next step would be, how do I get this information from them? So now we have an interview. All right, so if I want to link them, that's your step number 3, that's your step number 4, that's your step number 5 there. All right, now this same IT manager is most likely going to be providing you more than this information. So number of users is one thing, but the same IT manager probably is going to provide you information on the technology behind it or the interfaces required.
This overall basically depicts the maturity overall of a BA, right? So more experienced or more matured, he can use it effectively, the techniques which are, there. So don't, get bogged by these things, but, let's try to understand at an elementary level. We might have a look at this video later also, so that we can understand. This is a really good technique, frankly speaking, and that's why, I'm showing it to you. I know it'll be a couple of minutes more, so please bear with me. Okay, otherwise just let me know if we are almost at finish of our lecture. If you want we to have these discussions next class, I'll be ready to do that. Just let me know. Okay.
So let's say your other requirement here is, so that's requirement number 2, interfaces. And you figured that it's also going to be the IT manager. And now the best way to get this information could be in, let's say, an interview, right? But it also could be a document review, where you have to review some document with this IT manager. So now you know that if you're going to be meeting with this IT manager, that you probably don't want to just talk about number of users. You probably want to discuss the interfaces. So you would plan ahead and let this IT manager know that you're going to also review some documents in case they can get this ready for you. So here we see that some of these users needs the users and their time, that you have to plan out in advance who am I going to meet for which points, and you're trying to minimize the annoyances or the number of meetings that you're going to have. A lot of these users, and especially senior management, doesn't want to be troubled every single moment. You can't call them today and talk about number of users, call them tomorrow and talk about interfaces, and then on the third day or 1 week later, call them and say, hey, I forgot this. And do you have a couple of minutes to discuss this? Not everyone's going to be cool with that. So what you want to do is figure out for every requirement who or what is going to provide you this information. Take a look at them and figure the best technique from available techniques or well-known techniques that you would use to minimize the time frame for collecting the requirements. Mind you, with regards to time frame, you also have to consider step number 2, constraints. You may have a limited time for you to get this done. And if you are really tight on time, then workshops might work much better than interviews, because you can just bring everybody there into a 2 or 4 hour workshop with some snacks, and you can just sort things out. If you have a lot more time, then yeah, interviews will probably be a good option for you to do. All right, so figure out how you're going to collect this information using the techniques, and then once you figured all the techniques that you want to use, now go to step number 6, which is when will I collect info? And that would be your schedule. So you're going to develop some sort of a schedule, and that you can just put at the top here. So if I want to figure here that, let's say I plan for Monday at 9 a.m. That's step number 6 for me. I figured Monday at 9 a.m. I'm going to do an interview and review some documents with the IT manager to understand these key points. Does that make sense? So here, step number 3, number of users is a requirement. And step number 4, this is who's going to provide it. Step number 5, this is how I'm going to get this information using that technique. Step number 6 is when I'm going to get that information. So when you develop the schedule, as I previously discussed, you probably want to plan out the best timing or duration or techniques that will minimize the number of interactions that you're going to have with these stakeholders, so that they don't get bothered by what you're doing. So now, let's say you've developed a schedule. Monday at 9 a.m., Tuesday at this time, Tuesday in the afternoon, I'll meet this guy, or we will have this kind of a workshop. Then the next step that you want to do is, ask yourself, what will I need to collect info? And in this step, what I mean is people or tools. So here I'm just going to write people or team and tools. So you have to ask yourself, Is this something that I can do by myself? Do I need a team? Do I need someone to help me? For the time frame for step number 2, where I have limited time or limited money, what can I afford for people? Would I be able to do this myself? By looking at the schedule, if it looks like you need 3 months to get something done and your management's pushing for something to be done in 1 month, then obviously you're going to need some help. And agreeing to do this by yourself would be just, suicide. You're just trying to, you're leading yourself to failure, and you don't want to do this. You're trying hard, and for that, you need to ask for all the support. Now, if you're able to get these people, the team and the tools, you can go ahead and implement your plan. You can just go to implementation at this point. So just to recap, you first get a need from your senior management. They ask you to find a solution, a brand new solution, or a replacement or an enhancement for something that you have in place. The first thing you want to do is meet with them, understand the need, try to frame that need with numbers, whether it's a problem or an opportunity. Find out what the constraints are, which is step number 2, time, money, people, resources, location. Find out what it is that they put for boundaries for you. And then step number 3, ask yourself, what do I need to know for me to get this done? And, this could be pieces of information or gaps in the information. Once you know that, ask yourself, who will provide you this information, or what is the document that will provide you this information? If you can figure that, then go to the next step, which is, how would I collect this information? And this could mean, figuring out different techniques that would work for different instances and different pieces of information. Then schedule time to go and collect this information through interviews, brainstorming sessions, workshops, prototyping sessions, or maybe by doing benchmarking and market research. And then once you develop the schedule, if you're trying to make it fit within a specific time frame, then ask yourself if you will need additional team members or if you need specific tools to speed this up. Once you have this kind of support, whether it's team tools or support from your management, then your plan is ready, and you should be able to put this on paper, well scheduled, with all the activities that will happen, with all the people that will support you, and a clear understanding of what the requirements are that you need to collect from specific people that would help address the need. At that point, you're ready to implement. I hope you enjoyed this 7-step process for how you collect requirements. And if you have any comments, please.
Okay, let me come. So you have understood, right? You understood what he's trying to explain in terms of 7 different steps, right? So this is what we talked about, basically categorization of a requirement and try to understand how crucial is each and every requirement for the business in future, right? I think we have overstepped our time. Pardon me for that. I think because of the late start and all. But I would really love to understand from you if you have any challenges, any difficulties. We can get in touch on WhatsApp. We have our own group, so you can message me and we can be in touch, right? So shoot me any questions if you have any difficulties, and do try to understand how BA works. BA try to relate to each and every role so that you can understand in depth. Now, as a next step, we're going to go in a step deeper, trying to understand the tools, trying to get our hands dirty on, of these tools, how to basically implement the requirement through these tools, right? So next class will be a bit critical, so please don't miss, right? Sure. Thanks a lot to all of you for giving us time. We have next class, same time, day after tomorrow. Okay. Have a good night. Bye.